Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Happy Friday. As you can see, we've been doing this now for a couple Fridays, and today I am joined by my dear friend and realtor Petra, and I'm super excited that she's coming live with us in our group because, as you all know, part of what we're doing with this series of bringing in experts and local businesses is to really help support all of you in what's going on, as well as our local businesses and people who are there to support you in that journey, especially with everything going on right now. So I'm just super grateful that Petra can join us, and I'm going to have her share a little bit about her. But the reason why I wanted to bring her on here first is, one, she's super awesome and super chill and super knowledgeable about when it comes to owning a home, purchasing a home. She's dealt with rental properties. And we know right now there's a lot of uncertainty going on. And you'd be surprised at some of the data she's going to share when it comes to if you still have a goal as far as selling your home or purchasing a home. There's actually, from what I've heard from her, preliminary, there's a lot of, I think supportive information out there. And really we're just bringing some of this information to you from experts because I'm sure certainly not an expert at home purchasing and selling and all that, but Petra has been slowly but surely helping Ben and I in that direction when we get to that point after we've been through marriage. So anyway, that's a little bit about, again, what we're doing, you guys, with this series is just rallying the troops and really bringing in experts that are here to support you. So Petra, I'm gonna pass it on to you. Tell us a little bit about who you are, how you got into this work, and go into some of the things that you're seeing in the trends in the marketplace right now.
Sure. Well, hi, everybody. Like Dr. Mel said, I'm Petra Fager, and I am part of the Enclave team, and my broker is Remax Results. So I am housed over in Highland Park, and I work the whole Twin Cities market. And some people think that's crazy, but I really enjoy the variety and really being able to help people where they might navigate to. So I started out in education. I have a K-12 visual arts, Bachelor of Arts degree, and I taught high school art for 6 years. And that was sort of my second career. I started out working in international adoption, and real estate started out as sort of a side hustle. And it quickly became evident to me that it was something that was always going to be changing and would always be interesting, and that it was a unique way to help people, but a way that I could also make a living that could support myself and my dreams for family. So that was a big reason that I transitioned from teaching into real estate, is to support myself, but to see it as a way that long-term I could help people. It wasn't just a for-profit shark eat shark, never. So
You're like the opposite of a shark. For those people, some people here know you, Petra, but for those of you who don't, Petra is like one of the most chill energy people, at least from my perspective, which I think is super valuable when it comes to like just the home, process. So can you go into that a little bit, Petra, as far as I know you have some good data to share with us. But again, with everything going on, I think it's important to have an awareness. So go ahead and share with us what you're seeing on your end.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know the exact date of the stay-at-home order, but I think before that happened, the week that kind of schools started shutting down, and then there was an actual stay-at-home order, our spring market in the Twin Cities was actually on pace to be a much bigger spring market even than last year. So if you had tried to buy a home last year, if you heard about people trying to buy a home, we just had a shortage of inventory and a lot of people in multiple offer scenarios, and just a really scrappy market on the buyer side. On the seller side, just a lot of really happy sellers selling their homes quickly. And so it was, it was a good year last year, and this year before COVID, it was like, well, this year's going to be even better than last year. And so when we all, collectively started hearing about things and having things shut down, I think initially it was a question of, will anyone want to buy a home right now? And will they be able to buy a home if they do want to? What's the safe, wise way for me as a real estate professional to help people that want to buy or to sell? right away when the stay-at-home order came out, the governor established that because real estate is housing, that housing is an essential service, that people need a place to live. And so if we could conduct our businesses in a way that honored the safe practices that were being recommended, that we could continue to do that. So open houses in person were banned, and how we conducted showings and how we conducted closings and all of that shifted, just like a lot of parts of our lives have shifted. But for my business, I really kept busy right from that really, wow, this is going to be a way better spring even than last year, into like, wow, I'm still really busy. It's just changed. It's just different. And just some of the conversations with buyers changed. And I think one thing that stood out to me early on was that, moving is a stressful proposition, and buying a home, whether it's the first time or whether it's a move up purchase or a downsize move, most people don't just step lightly and just say like, for fun this year, I'm going to move. For fun this year, I'm going to like just disrupt my life and have to touch everything I own and just throw everything.
Pandemic.
Yeah. So, but even without the pandemic, like most people don't just casually move. There's usually something that makes now the time, whether it's a birth, the growth of a relationship, the loss of a relationship, a prospect for work, a new venture. And so that goal makes it worth the disruption in your life of moving. Mm-hmm. And so in those early conversations, when first things started to happen, what stood out to me is I talked with buyers, and my approach always is, well, let's look at your choices and you decide what's best for you, and I will guide you through whatever choices you choose and keep giving you input as new information comes in. And so an early conversation, I remember that the buyers talked about how, we wanted to do this before we heard about COVID. Even after COVID, the interest rates are still good. And we're looking at this move as our 20-year house, our maybe forever house. And so this, even though this is a big deal, even though it changes maybe some things about shopping, we still want to do it. We still think that in the long run, this is the right time, and we're not going to just put our long-term goals on hold. And so I think for a lot of people, if now was the time without COVID, it may still be the right time. You just have to take a shift, a pivot in how you approach it. And maybe the timing is slightly different, or maybe some element of things has changed. But in general, for most people, the interest rates are still accessible. If you're, obviously, if your employment is affected, that is huge and can be a game changer. But if you're able to work from home, if you're furloughed and coming back, for a lot of people, those dreams can still happen. They can still be approached this year.
Yeah, no, I think that brings people a lot of hope, that they can still pursue those dreams. That, like you said, it may look different, mm-hmm. but it doesn't mean it has to be totally stopped. And I'll just share with the viewers too, Petra's been so patient with Ben and I, because we had this vision of where we wanted to go, and then we kind of like stopped it and then focused on the wedding. And now it's like, okay, can we realistically start to move towards that, down payment, all of that, which I'm sure Petra's totally open to, chatting with you all and having questions answered. But having that patience, I think, is huge, especially now, if people are feeling on edge or feeling like uneasy about it. And I think it's just great to hear from you personally in that world that, okay, it still might be a good time. It may be a little different, but it still could be a viable option for people. And they don't have to, I know for us, it's like a space thing, right? Now that we're married, it's like, okay, what do we actually want in our vision for like our lives? And it's nice to just, again, hear that hope beyond everything that's going on. Mm-hmm. Teacher, do you have any like specific, for some of our analytical people, you don't have to go super in depth, but is there any sort of data that would be valuable for people to know as far as like, do I want to pursue this now or maybe wait a couple months?
Sure. I think an interesting conversation that, again, I could go in depth on is the cost of waiting. So if in the long run, the interest rates go up and we have inflation, the cost of waiting can be significant, because for every increment of interest that goes up, your payment's going to be affected, how much down payment you have to hit whatever increment of down payment you're shooting for. And And so oftentimes the home you're purchasing, if you're moving up, is bigger than the home you have. So even if you have a good interest rate on the existing home, locking in a really good interest rate on that move up purchase is much more valuable from a dollars standpoint than retaining the good mortgage that you know you're going to unload now that you've, even if you aren't sure if it's going to be this year, next year, or in 2 years, once you've identified you're moving, I think looking at the dollars of that and how that will impact the decision is worth doing. I would say our overall inventory has been low for a few years now, just even coming out of the Great Recession. That's just been an ongoing issue largely because new construction all but halted for years. And in the meantime, during all of those years, people were still born, people still aged out of high school or college or whatever life stage. And, there were divorces, there were new immigrants. So all the things that normally form a household still happened all the years of the recession where no homes were being built. And in the Twin Cities, even our rental market is really expensive rental market relative to the US. So it kind of creates pressure on all sides. And so I think one fear people have is like, is there a bubble? Will prices suddenly tank? And actually, if you look at the last 6 recessions from like an economic definition of a recession, and I believe it's more than 1/4 of not having a gain, is considered a recession. So if you look at the last 6 of those, we only had price decreases in 2 of them. One, they just slightly went down, and then obviously with the Great Recession, there were significant decreases in sale price, but in some recessions, prices actually go up. So that's another thing to consider, is that if because of the long-term fallout of COVID, prices actually go up, it could be that interest rates are okay, but homes actually become more expensive. So buying now could be a cheaper proposition for the same home than buying in 6 months or a year.
Yeah, I think that's a really, just to highlight something you said, Peter, I think that's a really good awareness that, it sounds simple, but I mean, life doesn't stop happening in a recession. Like, people are still having babies, and people are like growing up, and they're graduating, and kids are moving out. Maybe kids are moving back in. They're realizing space requirements change. So again, just hearing like, you maybe don't have to put your vision on hold, but it just looks different. And I like hearing, I mean, again, I'm not like a history buff, but it is nice to hear.
Yeah.
Like, I've only been on the planet for so long.
Yeah.
But it is nice to hear those trends.
Let me tell you a couple of quick stats. I'll be reading off this Post-it, so that's why I'm staring off. So homes for sale inventory. So right now, our 12-month average, if you look at homes for sale now versus a year ago and kind of a rolling 12 months, we're only down 2.4% this year to last year. So even though inventory is low, it's not like crazy low. And if, as things open up, people that maybe were on hold, I'm sure there's people right now that are on hold because of a health worry, and they have to figure out logistically, I still need to sell my home, but how can I do it in a way that protects my health? Yeah. I'm sure there's people in that position. Or I am a teacher and I have to teach from home. So once school is out, I can then look at this, but I can't do it while I have to be teaching from home remotely, or whatever, pick a job. Or my kids have to be on computers. So I can't have people in and out of my home. So I'm sure there are homes that will come on this summer and fall that would have come on in spring, but just are, in the background, not here yet. But to me, that number of, in the rolling 12 months, we're only down 2.4%. I think that's a pretty good, encouraging stat. If we look at average sales price and that same rolling 12-month average, right now, and this is Twin City wide, 331K is our 12-month average for average sale price, which is great. That's been increasing year over year. Last year, we were at 315K. So we're up year over year 5% as far as our average sale price. So if you're the buyer, you don't want to hear that. You're like, I don't want the average sale price to go up. But as soon as you buy a home, you're a future seller. So just think of it that way. Like, you're buying in a market where values are increasing. And so just, again, the cost of waiting could be that you're paying 5% more for the same house, but just overall prices haven't dropped. Now, we've been in this climate of what's happening because of COVID for long enough now that we've got April was our first full month of, here's a month of data where the whole month this was happening. Because if you looked at March numbers, March was so strong in the first half of March, and then the second half of March was kind of weird. So overall, March was kind of a outlier month to look at. If we look at April, we can see that the days on market went down. So our days on market was 61 on average in March, and in April it went down to 47. So for the homes that were left, people started snapping those up quickly and brought that average down. Our rolling 12-month average for days on market is 48. So that includes everything, new construction listings that sit for months because they're just a model home representing other homes, homes that maybe have some kind of distress or problem or are overpriced, so they sit for longer. But I would say just a really general trend that we're seeing is that homes that are priced according to market value and are in move-in ready condition are selling, within a week, maybe less, and for around 100% or more of what they're listed at. Our average, I didn't write that stat down, but our average percent of list price received is right between like 99.5 and 100. So when things are listed correctly and someone can just buy it and move into it, those are selling right away, even now with everything going on.
Well, our neighbors, I know they just sold their home, and Tanya Michelle is on here, and I know she sold her home in all this and said she had, great experience with that. And I remember, our neighbors, they put it on the market, and then I think within maybe 5 to 7 days it was gone, and they had like multiple showings and it was just gone. I think probably more than what they were asking for, and they had already purchased a home. So when it comes to that, Petra, what are you noticing, or what have you noticed gives people a sense of ease when it comes to looking at homes, maintaining their healthy practices?
Sure.
What are you seeing that gives people that ease of like, okay, I would be okay meeting my realtor and going into this home?
Sure. So let's talk about the buy side first and then kind of switch. So when I'm working with a buyer, we usually aren't meeting, unless you're doing a buyer consult, we weren't usually meeting in an office setting anyway. So when people contact me and say, I want to talk about buying a home, instead of saying, do you want to go get coffee or do you want to meet at the office? Instead, it's like, do you want a voice phone call or do you want a video meeting? And then we just schedule that. So that's been kind of fun actually, because I think it makes it, I don't know, an in-person meeting. I think sometimes it feels really serious, and maybe you are serious, but you also just want to explore and it feels like pressure. Whereas I think just hopping on a phone call or a video meeting feels like less pressure. And I think in this time, it's been nice for people to feel like, I don't need to put this on hold. I can still have this conversation, whether we're talking about buying a home in the next month or whether we're talking about 6 months from now, we can still start to explore. When we get into showings, all the regular things that people are being advised to do anyway. So wearing a mask, I bring wipes and hand sanitizer to each showing, and I have those at the door so that I can wipe down the lockbox. And then I run through the home with that wipe and open doors and turn on lights. If they're not mini sellers, are just opening closet doors, opening doors, turning on lights before you even come in, so that when you come in, it's all ready to just walk through and look at. And then even without COVID, for most showings, you're in and out in probably 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You're just getting a quick glance at the home and deciding whether it seems like a good fit. And most of the homes that you look at, you don't buy. So when you find one that you actually like, you linger, and maybe now it's a 15, 20-minute showing. Yeah. But if you know that you need to have a longer conversation, we can take it outdoors then and continue talking outside, where we can more easily get the social distance and or go home and hop on a Zoom meeting. So there's options there. For sellers, depending on, obviously if a home is vacant, that is the most comforting thing for a seller. They don't have to be present. They don't have to go in and out after people have been breathing in there. But if they do live in the home, I think what some sellers are doing is looking for, everybody's approaching this differently, but some people have like one family that they're doing things with as a family. So if someone has that kind of a relationship where they can just exit the home for the evening and go to be with their other safe family, and then when they come back in, them doing that wipe down of doorknobs and railings and light switches, to just, to the best of their ability, just eliminate what people may have touched. And for most people, I think that's been enough. If you had a major health concern, that probably wouldn't be enough, and you'd have to maybe look for a way that you could actually not be in the home for the showings. But the other thing is, if a home's priced correctly and sells right away, that period of you having people in and out of your home might only be several days or a week and a half. And so it's really more of a short-term issue than it is like, what if there's months of this? If there's months of people coming through your home, probably the price isn't correct, or there's some kind of other objection that needs to be looked at.
Yeah, Tanya says that she accepted an offer the first day on the market. So speaking to the quick turnaround, easing that fear of like, what if it's like this for months?
Yep.
I mean, I'm sure maybe you've seen that happen, but even now, like, things seem to be moving pretty quickly.
Yeah. Another concern I've heard is, what if something happens to the buyer's employment and so they can't complete the purchase? And that happened. Obviously, that's happened to specific people. It's happened to specific deals. But I would say overall, what I've seen, I've only had one deal in all of this where a buyer couldn't complete the sale because of a COVID-related issue. And in that case, I was working with the sellers, and we took a break on the market, just because once you sell, a lot of times you just start living in your home again because there aren't people in and out. So we just took a break and like set a new active date to get back on the market, and then we sold the home again. So in their case, it didn't really impact them much. We just had to sell the house again. If you were on a tighter timeline, maybe you wouldn't take a 2-week break. You would just throw it right back on the market and jump right back in. But they had the flexibility to just take a break and regroup. But I think most buyers, if you know your job isn't stable, you're probably not going to run out and start signing purchase contracts.
Right.
You're probably going to wait till things are more stable. So I don't think that most people are intentionally getting into deals if things aren't certain. And obviously, there's no guarantees. So it's, even with us, it wasn't like, it was disappointing, but everybody just signed the paperwork, needed to cancel and move on, because what can someone do? Like, yeah.
So having that flexibility for sure. And, that's why I think, yes, I've heard people, they've done private selling on their own, but I think having someone like you is so valuable in their back pocket, just knowing the ins and outs of that. And for someone who has like maybe seen those things, like, hey, I've seen this before, I can help you in that when things maybe get sticky or it doesn't move the way you want it to, whether it's now or into the future. I think that's super valuable to have someone like you on their team. So what would that look like, Petra, if people are curious to maybe start that process, whether it's purchasing and buying or selling, and maybe getting into the rental sphere? How would they reach out to you? Have like a Zoom coffee? Like, what's the best way to do that?
So I think you're going to link to my page on the website.
Yes, I did.
So Dr. Mel will post a link, and that will take you to I'm part of a larger team, but you can explore us and our identity as a team and how we can help you. One of the big things is just by approaching things as a team, you're not limited to my skills and ability and experience. You have a group of people working on your behalf. So I'm the person that is working directly most often with people, but in the background, we have an administrative team, a marketing team, and other. I've been in the business for about 9 years now, but I think we counted up, and the experience on the team totaled like 150 years. So it's like, there's people to bounce ideas off of. But yeah, a text, an email. But yeah, we could hop on a Zoom call or have a phone conversation. But yeah.
It is nice when things clear up to have coffee or wine with Petra too.
Yeah, but it's not as enjoyable to do it in separate rooms, but you can drink coffee and wine like this. Like, we're drinking water together right now, but we could do wine or coffee.
Yes.
Switch up the beverage.
Totally. I love it. So for those of you who are viewing now or later, as we post this, I did include the link to Petra's website. So make sure you check that out, her and her team. And then I did tag Petra specifically if you want to shoot her a message on Facebook, or she has all of her contact information on her website. So make sure you reach out to her. And like I said, Ben and I have been, I want to say working with you. I know it's been very slow, but she's our gal when we're ready to go on that, and making those strides that way. So if there's anything you feel like you want to leave our listeners and viewers with, Petra, when it comes to just anything in life, because I know you have a lot of experience and wisdom, but related to the housing market or not, what would you leave people with as we move into Memorial Day?
I think that especially if you're feeling stressed out about a decision, whether it's real estate related or something else, that I've learned to slow down and try to take the emergency out of the situation. Sometimes things are truly an emergency and you truly have to make a quick decision. But I think oftentimes we're creating that pressure on ourselves. And when you're feeling under pressure, it's hard to make a good decision, or it's hard to even know whether or not you're making a good decision. So if it's something you're thinking about, I would just take a step back and get data to replace uncertainty, and decide what the best choice is for now. But if now is the time to buy or to sell, or you're wanting to explore it, I think take one step at a time and make choices that seem to fit. But even though I think COVID is a tragedy, I think that for each of us individually, we can move past it and not have to make our lives feel like reactive, or that we're living in a constant state of emergency. I think we can look to the future and enjoy the good parts of living in the present without having to feel stuck here in the present.
That was beautiful. Wise words. I appreciate that. Well, you all heard it here first. Make sure you reach out to Petra, and just want to say thank you to you for just sharing your wisdom and taking your time with us. I know this is maybe a little unique topic, but I think it's, like I said, important to bringing experts in anything right now, because the world is changing and we can be hopeful and, as you said, be present and just be informed to help with some of that maybe uncertainty and just getting really clear with who we are and what we desire in life. So thanks, Petra. I appreciate you, and thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Fun to hang out. Take care.
Bye.